I am good to start whenever everybody else is.
Are you guys all okay with that? Starting right at 6?
Starting at 6?
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Well,
Okay.
You can.
We'll start at 6. We'll start.
Will they wait like 1 minute, or are they just gonna go, guys?
At least it's not the one he tore off.
That's what I would do.
Make for a funny shot.
Oh, no.
Are you recording this too?
Yeah, about so.
Okay.
We'll just kick it on.
Yes, I am here with Chief Bowling.
Yeah, Megan, this is Lucas here, Lucas Geisler here on scene. We are about to get started here on a news conference here with Columbia Police. An officer-involved shooting here. The Highway Patrol is investigating the camp at the landing apartments. Let's get listening here.
All right, are we all ready?
Yep, you're starting right now.
All right. So I'm just going to be very brief today and just kind of give a basic overview of what happened. We can take questions at the end, but we're not going to be able to provide a lot of answers. So at 15:05 hours today, officers from the Columbia Police Department responded to the 300 block of Campus View Drive in reference to a suicidal subject. Officers at that time spoke with the individual and were able to clear the call. At approximately 15:57 hours, the individual called back into 911 and requested officers respond back out to the scene. When officers responded out to the scene again, the individual was armed with a weapon and started firing shots into the air. A short time later, the subject started directing the gunfire towards officers, at which time officers returned fire at the suspect. The suspect is deceased at this time. The investigation has been turned over to the Highway Patrol. That is all we have for right now.
Was anybody injured during the shooting? Anybody else?
Except no officers and no community members have been injured at this time.
Do you have any idea, maybe from dispatch notes or anything like that, as far as the call goes? Was it made to Joint Communications, and that's how you all got the call?
Yes, all of the calls were routed through Joint Communications, dispatched out to officers.
Any idea just as far as what was said in those 911 calls to, I guess, get coded like or listed as a suicidal subject?
So that is not stuff that we're going to go into at this point. All the details on the investigation, that will come out throughout the Highway Patrol's investigation.
Is this the first time you've responded to this residence with a similar situation?
Again, that's going to be something that's going to have to come out in the Highway Patrol investigation. We're not going to get into the specifics of that.
How much time, and I may have missed this, but how much time was in between the initial phone call and then the second phone call?
The initial request came in at 15:05 hours, and then not quite 52 minutes later, at 15:57 hours, a second call came in requesting assistance.
And how long did that altercation take place for?
From the second call.
No, I'm not able to get into details of that right now.
Okay.
Can you say how many shots were fired?
No, not at this point.
When you returned to the scene, did it take place outside or inside the apartment, or where did it take place?
I think we can say it occurred outside of the residence.
Gotcha. Okay.
And to be clear, the person who made both 911 calls, we believe, are the same person.
That is unknown at this time. I will tell you the second call came in from the subject involvement incident.
And was there any property damage involved in this as well? I mean, just knowing that there were multiple shots fired.
So there's still investigations at this point. We can't release any of the details about vehicles or buildings or anything else that was damaged in this at this time.
Will an autopsy be conducted?
Yes.
Do you know if the suspect was by himself or herself and anyone else was around?
That's going to be stuff we're not going to go into at this time.
Is a male subject though?
There's a male subject. I'm not any other pedigree information other than a male subject. We're not going to release until we've had time to notify next of kin.
Chief, these suicidal subject calls, I'm sure, are always kind of dangerous to go into, really, for officers and the person involved themselves. Any thoughts? Have you even had a chance to talk with your department staff, like even from this or before, on handling these types of calls and addressing them?
Yeah, absolutely. Suicidal subject calls are one of the most difficult, challenging calls that officers have to handle. We give them a priority list of how they should handle it, and we call them our safety priorities. We literally ingrain it in new officers from the time they start to the time they end. And it starts with priorities of life. Hostages and innocent people are our number one priority. We don't want anyone else to get hurt, right? Police officers are going to be third on that list behind hostages and innocents. And then the final subject is going to be the subject who's involved in the incident or the suspect. They're still on our list. The safety of all people is our highest priority, right? Law enforcement, we get into law enforcement to save people, to help people, and to try to safely resolve incidents. But sometimes it's just beyond our control, and we have to react to dangers that we face.
Can you say how many officers were dispatched to that original call and then how many officers were sent to the second call?
No, not at this time.
Did you say this was an adult subject though?
It is an adult male subject.
Any idea how the first call was resolved? Was contact made with the caller or the subject? or
Not
anything?
something we're going to be able to go into at this time.
You said no one else was injured when the shots were fired in the air. Was anyone else present at the time? Were there people walking by?
Not something we're going to go into with any other witness information.
Officers on leave at this time that responded.
We're so early into this investigation that we're not there yet. I will say, as a general practice, most of the time, anytime an officer is involved in a shooting, they get put on administrative leave, just as a general protocol.
Were CPD and MSHP the only two jurisdictions that came out here?
I don't have that specific information right now.
And what comes next in the investigation?
At this point, there will be two investigations that occur. There will be a criminal investigation that's conducted by the Missouri State Highway Patrol, and then there will also be an internal administrative investigation that's conducted by our police department to make sure everything was within policy of the Columbia Police Department.
Was the suspect found dead on the scene?
Yes.
Did you find any weapons on him or anywhere else in his apartment or nearby?
We're not going to go into the details. I say we can confirm that the suspect did fire shots.
Gee, just I guess as a matter of record, I know it's been talked a lot in this city. Do you have mental health co-responders yet?
No, we are still working through that. Assistant Chief Hunter is actually one of the ones that's working point on that. We're, to get a co-response model mapped out, but we are not operational with that program this time.
And how important do you think it is to have that kind of partnership moving forward?
The mental health side of what we have to deal with on a daily basis is a huge problem for law enforcement, and so the more people, the resources we can get helping out with that, the better off we'll be.
Do you have a timeline on how long that might take?
I don't.
Chief, anything that you wanted to add on this?
No, I mean, we feel for the families of everybody involved, right? The subject who was involved in this incident, as well as the police officers involved in this incident. I will tell you, it's a really stressful event on everyone involved, and our hearts and our prayers are with them. So.
Chief, do you want to add anything?
I would just say that when it comes to the co-response issue, I think this is a great example of why we have to be very mindful of how we construct that model. This is a perfect example because we got to think about what we're sending people into, and sometimes situations like this can change very rapidly. So co-response is going to have to be really well thought through, because I think while we would love to say there's incidents and times where, hey, we can get out of the business of doing this, that, or the other, sometimes with mental health calls, they can become dangerous very quickly. So when we put all that together in the end, I think we'll be very, very deliberate about how those policies are constructed, keeping in mind things like this.
And this has to weigh heavily on officers and those involved in this. Will there be counseling or available for them as well?
Absolutely.
And what's the protocol for any officer involved shooting? When it comes to counseling?
So we have steps that they go through that they're required. They speak with someone. They can obviously, we have a peer support team here in the department that's completely outside of administration. So they can talk with peers that they have on the department about things that's confidential. So they have a lot of different avenues. We have EAP through the department, but they have a lot of different options. But yeah, it's part of the process of returning to duty.
And then my final question for you guys is just how helpful was it to have those other departments come out here and respond with them, including the Missouri State Highway Patrol?
I honestly, I was here fairly early on. I couldn't even tell you exactly which all departments responded at this point because there were so many people, but obviously we have a lot of cooperation and friendship with our responders in the area, and we appreciate everybody that showed up, whoever that was at this point. We don't really know at this point.
Just if you don't mind, maybe Chief Bollinger would be best for this. As far as details on the call here, can you say which building it happened outside of?
I don't want to get into specifics, but obviously there's a lot of police presence around a certain area. That's where the incident originated.
And to be clear, can you say an officer or anyway did fire their weapon during this incident?
Yes, we had officers fire their weapon during this incident.
Does that mean more than one officer?
I'm not going to go into the details on that right now, but
At the,
suicide by a gun of the police officer, like shooting at a police officer, could that have been like a suicide mission?
Absolutely. But again, I can't speculate onto what his motive is at this time. I will tell you that a common phenomena, and just in general terms across the country, is suicide by copyright. We've heard it everywhere. Is where people will end up making the police end up killing them, right? Putting us into positions where we have to act, or where ourselves are going to be harmed, or our partners are going to be harmed, and that's an unfortunate reality. I can't say that's what happened here yet.
Do you know what type of weapon the suspect was using? What type of weapon that?
Nope, that's part of the investigation. We're not going to discuss it yet.
There's lots of tape up around here. So for residents of the area, is there anything they should know about getting back to their apartments?
Yeah, so they need to not cross the yellow tape and be escorted onto any areas within a perimeter of a crime scene. We'll work with them to make sure they can get access to their homes and vehicles and everything else, but they're just going to have to bear with us.
How long that process will take?
It's going to take a while. It's not going to be that much.
and just as again a matter of course, do we know yet if the whatever killed the gentleman involved in this was an officer's gunshot, their own gunshot? Do we know that?
We can't determine that until the investigation is completed.
At any point, do you think that people were in an unsafe environment by being around neighbors? You know, how long was the gunfire that last?
I will say that when active shots are being fired, I mean, that's always an unsafe environment, and if anybody ever finds themselves in that situation, the best option is to flee the area, right? Go find safety. Like that run, hide, fight's a real thing. Run, get out of the area if you find yourself in the middle of gunshots.
How long did it last?
I don't have that details yet. All right, that's it. No more questions.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.